The great hall was quiet except for the soft humming of alien machines. Ambassador Sarah stood straight and tall as she watched the voting numbers appear on the giant screen above her head. Each number made her heart sink a little more. 723 votes to kick humanity out of the galaxy. Only 89 votes to let them stay. 35 aliens who could not decide either way. Sarah had known this day might come, but seeing it happen still felt like a punch to the stomach. Around her, alien beings from hundreds of different worlds whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music, clicks, or electronic beeps. None of them looked at her. The Chancellor stood up from his crystal throne. His body looked like living glass, and when he spoke, his voice rang like a bell through the entire hall. "The vote is final," he said. "Humanity is too dangerous to remain part of our peaceful galaxy. The Sol system will be cut off from all contact. No trade, no messages, no help. All humans must return to Earth within 30 days. Sarah felt the eyes of nearly 1,000 alien representatives on her. They expected her to beg. They expected her to cry or shout or make angry speeches about how unfair this was. Some probably hoped she would do something violent so they could feel better about their choice. Instead, Sarah simply nodded. She picked up her papers, put them in her bag, and walked toward the exit. Her shoes made soft, clicking sounds on the smooth floor. The hall remained dead silent as she walked. "Wait," called out Ambassador from the Union. His tentacles wiggled nervously. "Do you not wish to appeal, to speak for your species one last time?" Sarah stopped and turned around. For a moment she looked at all the alien faces staring at her. Some looked guilty, others looked afraid. A few seemed pleased with themselves. "No," she said simply. "You have made your choice. Now we will make ours." She walked out of the hall and did not look back. Within 1 hour, emergency messages went out to every human in the galaxy. The message was short and clear. "Come home immediately. Bring everything you can carry. Leave the rest. We are done here." The speed of the human response shocked everyone. Most aliens had expected months of arguing and delay. Instead, human ships began moving toward Earth before the day was over. Trading stations that had been run by humans for decades suddenly went dark. Research labs closed their doors. Diplomatic offices emptied out. Captain was commanding a mining operation in the Vega system when the message came through. He read it twice, then called all his workers together. "Pack everything," he told them. "Tools, supplies, everything we can fit on the ships. We leave in 6 hours." "But sir," said Engineer Martinez, "we have contracts here. The vegans will be angry if we just leave." Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "The vegans voted to kick us out, Martinez. They do not get to be angry about anything we do now." The same scene played out across the galaxy. Doctor left her medical research center on station, taking with her years of work on alien diseases. She destroyed what she could not carry. "Let them figure out the plague season without us," she said. Commander Jackson pulled his peacekeeping forces out of the Rim Wars, leaving 3 different alien species to fight without human soldiers to keep them from killing each other. "Not our problem anymore," he told his troops as they packed their weapons. The most shocking moment came when the humans abandoned the Great Library on Prime. For 200 years, human scholars had worked alongside aliens to preserve the knowledge of 1,000 worlds. Now they simply walked away, taking only the human contributions with them. Librarian stood in the empty human section, looking at the blank shelves. 2 centuries of friendship," she said to her alien assistant, "gone in 1 vote." The alien assistant, a gentle being called Moss, tried to speak. "We can still be friends. This vote." It was fear, nothing more. Fear of what humans might become. Smiled sadly. "You should be more afraid of what we will become now that you have set us free." By the end of the first week, the galaxy began to feel the impact. Trade routes that had been run by human ships for generations suddenly had no one to maintain them. Food shipments stopped arriving at stations that had depended on human farmers. Medical supplies ran low without human factories to make them. The aliens had not realized how much they needed humans until they were gone. But the humans kept leaving. They stripped their colonies bare, taking every piece of technology, every machine, every bit of knowledge they could carry. What they could not take, they destroyed. No gifts for the galaxy that had rejected them. Admiral Foster commanded the last human military base outside the Sol system. As his ships prepared to leave, he received a desperate message from the local alien government. "Please," the message said, "do not abandon us. The pirates will come as soon as you leave. Your ships are the only thing keeping this sector safe." Foster's reply was cold and simple. "You voted for us to leave. We are leaving." As the great ships of humanity moved toward Earth, they left behind empty stations, dark factories, and confused aliens who had not thought about what would happen after the humans were gone. Sarah stood on the bridge of the last diplomatic ship, watching the stars change as they jumped toward home. Her assistant, a young man named David, stood beside her. "Do you think we will ever come back?" David asked. Sarah looked at the endless darkness between the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity would find its own path, without alien rules, without alien fears holding them back. "Oh, we will be back," she said quietly, "but not the way they expect, and not as the same species that just left." Behind them, the galaxy settled into an uneasy peace, believing they had solved their human problem. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. 3 months after the vote, the Sol system looked like a giant construction site. Ships of every size floated around Earth, Mars, and the space stations. But these were not the same ships that had returned from exile. Human engineers worked day and night to change them into something new. Admiral stood in the command center on Luna Base, looking at screens that showed the progress across the entire solar system. Numbers scrolled past him constantly: food supplies, fuel levels, population counts, ship modifications. 12 billion humans needed to be moved, and they had to carry everything they would need to build a new life. "Report," said to Captain Torres, who had just returned from checking the outer system preparations. "Dock 7 is ready, sir. The mining ships have been converted to carry families. We have stripped every asteroid in the belt for raw materials. The Jupiter refineries are working at 300% normal capacity." Nodded. Humanity had 30 years of alien technology to study and improve. Now they were putting it to use in ways the aliens had never imagined. Doctor hurried into the command center, her hair messy from working in the labs for 3 days straight. In her hands, she held a small device that glowed with blue light. "Admiral," she said, trying to catch her breath, "we did it. Real faster than light travel, not the wormhole gates the aliens use. True FTL." Stared at the device. "How?" Laughed, a sound full of tiredness and joy. "The aliens think it is impossible because their computers told them it was impossible. But humans do not always listen to computers. We tried it anyway." She showed him the readings on her tablet. "A ship with this drive can move 100 times faster than anything in the galaxy. We do not need their wormhole network anymore. We do not need their permission to go anywhere." Felt a smile spread across his face. This changed everything. Within days, the new drive technology was being installed in every ship. The largest vessels, massive colony ships that could carry 1 million people each, got the biggest drives. The military ships got drives that could make them appear and disappear like ghosts. Captain Sarah worked with her engineering team to modify the colony ship New Hope. The ship was the size of a small city, with farms, factories, and living spaces for families. But now it would also have weapons and armor, because humanity was done trusting others to protect them. "We are not just moving people," she told her crew. "We are moving our entire civilization. Every machine, every book, every song, every memory. The aliens wanted us gone, so we take everything that makes us human. The preparations went far beyond just building ships. Doctor led teams that collected genetic samples from every living thing on Earth. Seeds from every plant, DNA from every animal, even samples of bacteria that might be useful. If they were leaving Earth forever, they would take Earth's life with them. Engineer Martinez had a different job. He led the teams that were building fake signals to leave behind. Radio broadcasts, energy readings, heat signatures, everything needed to make it look like humans were still living normal lives in the Sol system. The aliens will watch us for years, he explained to his workers. They need to think we are still here, still weak, still trapped. Let them believe we gave up and stayed home to cry. Meanwhile, scientists worked on projects that would have been impossible under alien oversight. Dr. Singh created new metals that were stronger than anything in the known universe. Professor Lee developed computers that could think faster than alien minds. Biologists designed plants that could grow in any environment, even in the vacuum of space. The most important work happened in secret labs hidden in asteroids far from Earth. Here, weapons researchers pushed the limits of what was possible. They studied alien weapons taken from battlefields and made them better. They invented new types of energy that could cut through any armor. They built devices that could protect entire fleets from enemy attacks. General Harrison visited one of these hidden labs and watched scientists test a weapon that could make enemy ships simply disappear. "Where do they go?" he asked. The scientist Dr. Adams shrugged. "Somewhere else. We are not sure where. Does it matter?" Harrison decided it did not matter. What mattered was that humanity would never again face an enemy they could not defeat. As the great ships took shape, families began saying goodbye to the only home humanity had ever known. Parks and museums on Earth filled with people taking one last look at blue skies and green grass. Many cried. Others took pictures. Some just stood quietly, trying to remember everything. 10-year-old Lucy Santos stood with her parents at the edge of the Grand Canyon, looking down into the deep rock layers that told the story of Earth's past. "Will we ever come back, Mama?" she asked. Her mother, Captain Santos, knelt down and hugged her daughter. "Maybe someday, little one, but we are going to build something even better out there among the stars. New worlds, new homes, new adventures." Lucy nodded, but she picked up a small red stone from the canyon's edge and put it in her pocket. She would carry a piece of Earth with her to the stars. The final month was chaos and excitement mixed together. The great fleet assembled beyond Pluto, where alien sensors could not see them clearly. 50,000 ships of every size and purpose. Colony ships, factory ships, farm ships, school ships, hospital ships, and warships hidden among them all. Admiral stood on the bridge of the command ship Defiant, looking at the display that showed the entire fleet. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Humanity had never built anything so large or so powerful. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain Torres announced. Took a deep breath. Once they left, there would be no going back. Humanity would be on its own in the vast darkness between stars, with only their courage and intelligence to guide them. "Send the message," he said. Torres activated the transmitter, sending a signal toward the galaxy they were leaving behind. The message was simple but clear. "To the Galactic Council and all member species, you voted for us to leave. We are leaving. Do not look for us. We will find our own way among the stars. This is the last time you will hear from the humanity you knew. The next time we meet, we will be something new." The great fleet turned toward the empty space between galaxies, where no alien had ever traveled. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, its automatic systems broadcasting normal signals as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Humanity was no longer bound by alien rules or alien fears. They were free to become whatever they could imagine. The journey to their new home would take months, even with the new FTL drives. But for the first time since the vote, humans were excited about the future instead of angry about the past. They were going to build something amazing. 25 years had passed since humanity left the galaxy behind. In the vast emptiness between spiral arms, they had found something wonderful, a region of space where young stars were just being born, with fresh planets waiting for new life. They called it the Terran Reach, and it had become home to the most advanced civilization in the known universe. Captain Maria Santos, now grown up from the little girl who once stood at the Grand Canyon, piloted her scout ship through the New Geneva system. Below her, massive shipyards floated in the clouds of a gas giant, building vessels that would make the old galactic fleets look like toys. "Control, this is Scout 7, she said into her radio. "The new heavy cruiser is ready for testing." "Copy that, Scout 7, came the reply from the orbital command station. "Tell the engineers their baby looks beautiful." Maria smiled. The ship below her was 3 times larger than anything humanity had built before they left Earth, but size was not what made it special. This ship could fold space around itself to become invisible. It could fire weapons that existed in multiple dimensions at once. It could repair itself using materials pulled from empty space. The aliens in the old galaxy still used technology that was thousands of years old, afraid to change anything that might upset their peaceful balance. Humans had no such fear. Cut off from alien influence, human science had exploded in directions no one had imagined possible. Doctor, now the chief scientist of the entire Terran Reach, stood in her laboratory on the research world of Prometheus. Around her, machines hummed and sparked as they bent the laws of physics in new ways. "Show me the latest results," she said to her assistant, Dr. Park. Park activated a holographic display that showed the molecular structure of a new material. "We call it quantum steel. It exists in 17 dimensions at once. A sheet 1 centimeter thick can stop a planet-killing weapon." Nodded approvingly, "And the biological research. Doctor's team has created plants that can grow in pure vacuum, eating radiation and cosmic dust. We can terraform dead worlds in 10 years instead of 10,000. This was what freedom looked like. Without alien ethics committees to slow them down, without galactic safety regulations to limit them, human scientists could explore any idea, no matter how crazy it seemed. On the world of New Geneva, Engineer Martinez worked with his team to solve their latest challenge: how to build a space elevator that could lift entire cities into orbit in minutes instead of hours. "The problem," he explained to his apprentices, "is that normal materials are not strong enough, but we do not have to use normal materials anymore." He showed them designs for a cable made from crystallized space-time, anchored by gravity generators that could make the planet itself lighter. "In the old galaxy, they would call this impossible," said one of the apprentices, a young woman named Lisa. Martinez laughed. "Everything we have built here is impossible. That is why we built it." The Terran Reach now included over 300 star systems, each one designed for a specific purpose. Industrial worlds stripped asteroids and moons for raw materials. Agricultural worlds fed the growing population with crops that could grow anywhere. Research worlds pushed the boundaries of science and technology. But the crown jewel was Humanity Prime, built in the perfect center of the Reach. It was not a planet but a massive construct in space, a city the size of a moon, rotating slowly to provide gravity. From here, the Terran High Command governed an empire that grew stronger every day. General Harrison, now old but still sharp, walked through the command center of Humanity Prime. Screens around him showed the status of colonies across hundreds of light years. Defense fleets patrolled the borders, watching for any threat. But the biggest threat was not invasion, it was success. Humanity was growing so fast that they needed new worlds every month. "Report from the exploration fleets," said his aide, Colonel Foster. "Fleet 7 has found a cluster of 43 star systems with habitable worlds. Fleet 12 has discovered a nebula rich in exotic materials we can use for advanced manufacturing. Fleet 19," Harrison paused as he read the report. "Fleet 19 has found something interesting." "Sorry." "They have discovered a dimensional gateway. It leads to what appears to be an entire pocket universe, empty and waiting for us." Harrison smiled. Humanity was no longer just expanding through normal space. They were moving into realms that the old galaxy did not even know existed. Life in the Terran Reach was different from anything humanity had known before. Children born here grew up learning to pilot starships before they learned to drive cars. Schools taught students how to survive in space, how to build new technologies, how to lead expeditions to unknown worlds. Lucy Santos, now a mother herself, watched her son Tommy play with toys that gravity and glowed with their own light. "Mama," Tommy asked, "why do the old stories talk about humans being weak?" Lucy knelt down beside her 5-year-old son. "We were never weak, Tommy, but we used to let others tell us what we could and could not do. Now we decide for ourselves." Tommy nodded seriously, then went back to building a model spaceship that could phase in and out of reality. The transformation went beyond technology. Humanity itself was changing. With perfect medical science, people lived longer and healthier lives. With unlimited resources, no one went hungry or homeless. With endless frontiers to explore, everyone could find their purpose. Most importantly, they were united. The exile had burned away the old divisions between nations and cultures. There were no more Americans or Chinese or Europeans, only humans. And humans had learned that they were strongest when they worked together. Admiral, now leading the exploration fleets, stood on the bridge of his flagship as it emerged from FTL near a distant star. His sensors showed something that made his heart race: artificial structures orbiting the star, clearly built by an intelligent species. But these were not the aliens humanity had left behind. This was something new, something they had never encountered before. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission. It is mathematical sequences they are trying to communicate." Smiled. "Signal our peaceful intentions and try to establish communication, but keep the weapons ready and the drives charged. We are not the same humans who trusted too easily." First contact with a new species, humanity's first as an independent power. Whatever happened here would set the tone for their future relationships. Thought about how far they had come. 50 years ago, the galaxy had voted to exile them because they were too dangerous. Now humanity commanded technology that could reshape reality itself, controlled hundreds of worlds, and had the power to defend themselves against any threat. The exile had been meant to weaken them. Instead, it had set them free to become something greater than the galaxy had ever imagined. As his ship moved toward the alien structures, wondered if the old galaxy ever thought about the humans they had cast out. Did they ever wonder what had become of them? Did they ever regret their vote? Soon thought they would find out. But for now, humanity had work to do. New worlds to explore, new technologies to develop, new species to meet. The Terran Reach was growing every day, becoming stronger, becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. The child species that had been exiled was gone. In its place stood an empire that would reshape the universe itself. The galaxy that had exiled humanity 50 years ago was dying. Chancellor, now ancient and desperate, stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council. The great hall that had once been filled with proud representatives from hundreds of worlds now held only a few dozen frightened survivors. "The situation is worse than we feared," announced, his tentacles trembling with age and stress. "The Devourers have consumed the Vega system completely. 17 billion lives gone, 300 worlds stripped of all life and matter. Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembly. The devourers had come from the dark space between galaxies, creatures that fed on entire star systems, turning planets into fuel for their massive bioships. In just 5 years, they had destroyed a quarter of galactic civilization. "What of our defense fleets?" asked Representative Moss, the gentle being who had once worked with humans in the Great Library. "Destroyed," said simply. "The devourers adapt faster than we can develop new weapons. Our strongest ships barely scratch their hulls before being consumed." The truth was worse than even admitted. The galaxy had grown weak in the 50 years since humans left. Without human innovation pushing them forward, technology had stagnated. Without human traders keeping the economy moving, many species had become isolated and poor. Without human soldiers keeping the peace, old conflicts had returned. Now they faced an enemy that required everything. They no longer had aggressive tactics, rapid innovation, and the willingness to take terrible risks to achieve victory. Ambassador of the Rigel Union spoke up. "What about the humans? Surely they would help us in this crisis." "The humans are gone," replied. "Our scouts report that Earth still orbits its sun, but they refuse all communication. They appear to have retreated into isolation after our decision." What did not say was that the scout reports made no sense. Earth's energy signatures were normal, its radio traffic typical, but something felt wrong. No human ships had been seen leaving the Sol system for decades. It was as if they had simply given up and stayed home. High above the galactic core, in the space between dimensions, Captain Sarah watched the council session through sensors that the aliens could never detect. Her ship, the Retribution, was longer than most space stations and armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. "Are you going to tell them?" asked her tactical officer, Commander Park. Sarah shook her head. She was the daughter of the ambassador who had walked out of this same hall 50 years ago, and she had inherited both her mother's diplomatic training and her father's military mind. "Not yet. Let them finish their little meeting first." Around the Retribution, hidden in dimensional folds that bent space itself, the Terran Watch Fleet observed the dying galaxy. 50 ships, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever built. They had been watching for 20 years, recording the slow collapse of the civilization that had rejected them. The Devourers were a problem, but not because they threatened humanity. The Terran reach was far beyond their current path of destruction. The problem was that the Devourers consumed matter and energy in ways that could damage the fabric of space itself. If they were not stopped, their feeding could eventually create instabilities that would affect other dimensions. That was the only reason the Terran High Command had decided to act. Back in the council chambers, the debate continued. Species blamed each other for the current crisis. Military leaders demanded resources they no longer had. Scientists proposed solutions based on technology they no longer understood. Chancellor watched the arguing with growing despair. Once, the Galactic Council had been a force for peace and progress. Now it was just a collection of scared survivors, bickering while their civilization burned. "Enough," he said finally. "We must try to contact the humans directly, send a message to Earth, tell them we need their help." The message was sent using the most powerful transmitters the galaxy possessed. It begged humanity to forgive past mistakes and help their former neighbors in their darkest hour. The automated systems orbiting Earth received the message and responded with cheerful updates about solar system, weather patterns, and asteroid mining operations. No human voice answered the desperate plea. What the galaxy did not know was that humans had left Earth decades ago. The signals were fakes, designed to make them think humanity was still hiding in their home system. The real humans were scattered across hundreds of dimensions, building an empire that spanned realities. 3 days later, The Devourers attacked the galactic core itself. The battle was a massacre. Galactic ships that had once been the pride of their fleets were consumed like insects. Weapons that should have been able to destroy small moons barely slowed the alien bioships. In 6 hours, the capital world of 3 different species was reduced to cosmic dust. Chancellor stood in his emergency bunker, watching the end of everything he had spent his life protecting. Around him, advisors suggested desperate final plans, evacuating to distant systems, hiding on primitive worlds, surrendering to the Devourers in hopes of mercy. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we have an incoming transmission. The source is unknown." The screen in front of flickered and showed the interior of a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls seemed to bend reality around them, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. And standing in the center was a human woman in a uniform that gleamed with its own light. "This is Admiral Sarah of the Terran Defense Fleet," the woman said. "We have been monitoring your situation." Felt hope flare in his chest for the first time in years. "Admiral, please, you must help us. The Devourers are destroying everything. We know we wronged your people in the past, but surely—" "Chancellor," Sarah interrupted, her voice calm and cold. "You misunderstand. This transmission is not a rescue. It is a warning. Stand down your remaining forces and withdraw to minimum safe distance." "I do not understand." Sarah smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "You voted to exile humanity from this galaxy 50 years ago. That vote stands. We are not part of your government, your alliances, or your wars. We are here only because the Devourers threaten dimensional stability." Before could respond, the transmission ended. Across the battlefield, space began to tear open. Through rifts in reality stepped ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. They moved without regard for gravity or momentum, appearing and disappearing like ghosts made of metal and energy. The Devourer bioships, which had easily destroyed galactic forces, suddenly found themselves facing something they could not understand. Human weapons struck from angles that did not exist, causing entire ships to simply vanish from reality. Defense systems that operated beyond the normal laws of physics protected the human fleet from attacks that should have been unstoppable. Admiral stood on her bridge, watching tactical displays that showed the battle from 17 different dimensions at once. "Deploy dimensional charges," she ordered. "End this quickly." The human fleet moved into formation and released weapons that compressed space itself. Where the weapons struck, Devourer ships were crushed into points of infinite density before disappearing into pocket universes created for the purpose. In 18 minutes, the battle was over. The Devourer fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for years was completely destroyed. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the human ships began to phase out of normal space. "Wait," Chancellor broadcast desperately. "Please, we need to talk. The galaxy needs your help to rebuild." Sarah's face appeared on screens across what remained of galactic space. Her expression was neither angry nor triumphant, just completely indifferent. "The Terran High Command has voted," she said. "The threat to dimensional stability has been eliminated. Our involvement here is finished. We suggest you solve your remaining problems without creating new ones." "But the refugees, the destroyed worlds, surely you can help." "Chancellor," Sarah said quietly, 50 years ago, this council voted that humanity was too dangerous to remain in this galaxy. We have honored that vote. We do not live here anymore. Your problems are not our problems." The transmission ended, and the last human ship vanished into dimensions the galaxy could not reach. Stood alone in his bunker, looking at the debris field where 2 fleets had just fought a battle that redefined what was possible in war. Around him, his advisors tried to understand what they had just witnessed. "Sir," said one of them, "those ships, that technology, how long have the humans been capable of such things?" thought about the small, angry species that had been voted out of the galaxy. He remembered how they had simply left without argument or revenge. Everyone had assumed they had given up, retreated to their home world to nurse their wounds. Instead, they had become gods. The galaxy had voted to exile Earth because humanity was dangerous. They had succeeded beyond their worst nightmares. In trying to remove a threat, they had freed it to become something that could reshape reality itself. And now that power was gone, disappeared into the void between stars, with no intention of ever returning. 1 year after the Battle of Galactic Core, the galaxy struggled to rebuild from the ruins the Devourers had left behind. Billions of refugees crowded onto the few remaining safe worlds. Ancient trade routes lay broken. Entire species existed now only in the memories of survivors. Chancellor walked through the refugee camps on what had once been the garden world of Serenity Prime. Makeshift shelters stretched to the horizon, filled with beings who had lost everything. The air smelled of desperation and unwashed bodies. "The situation grows worse each day," reported his aide, a young named. "Food supplies are running low, the medical centers are overwhelmed, and the children," paused, unable to finish. Nodded sadly. The children born in the camps had never known anything but hunger and fear. They asked questions about the worlds. Their parents described beautiful places with clean air and abundant food as if they were fairy tales. "Any word from the outer systems?" asked. "The Rigel Union is trying to restart their industrial centers, but without human logistics networks, they cannot transport materials efficiently. They are attempting to grow food on contaminated worlds, but their crops keep failing." It was the same story everywhere. For 50 years, the galaxy had depended on human innovation, human trade networks, human solutions to complex problems. They had not realized it at the time because humans had made it look easy. Only now, with humans gone, did they understand how much they had lost. "Sir," said hesitantly, "the Terran High Command sent another response to our requests for aid." Closed his eyes. Every week he sent messages to the void, begging for help from the humans who had saved them all. Every week the response was the same. "Let me guess. The Terran Reach is not part of galactic civilization. Please direct your requests to appropriate galactic authorities." "Yes, sir, but this time there was something else." Handed him a data pad containing detailed technical specifications. Looked at the information and felt his breath catch. These were blueprints for defensive systems, terraforming technology, medical treatments, and industrial processes far beyond anything the galaxy had ever possessed. "They sent us the technology to solve our problems," he whispered. "All of it, sir. Everything we need to rebuild. Food production systems that can work on dead worlds, shields that can protect entire planets, medical treatments that can cure radiation poisoning and genetic damage." Felt tears running down his crystalline face. It was more than enough to save galactic civilization, but the message that came with it was clear. "We give you the tools. What you do with them is your choice. Do not contact us again." Humanity had thrown them a rope to climb out of the pit they had fallen into, but they would not climb out for them. Far away, in the space between galaxies, Admiral Sarah stood in the observation deck of Humanity Prime. Through the transparent aluminum walls, she could see the lights of 1,000 worlds spread across the Terran Reach. Ships moved between the stars like fireflies, carrying the goods and people of an empire that grew stronger every day. "The galactic refugees are using our technology," reported Doctor, now grown old but still brilliant. "Early reports suggest they will be able to rebuild their civilization within a generation." Sarah nodded. "And our exploration fleets?" "Fleet 15 has made contact with the Architects, a machine intelligence from another galaxy entirely. They are interested in trade agreements. Fleet 20 has discovered what appears to be a gateway to parallel universes. And Fleet 7, Doctor smiled. Fleet 7 has found Earth. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Earth. Not our Earth. Another Earth, in a dimension where humanity never developed spaceflight. They are still in their early industrial age, but they show promise. Are we going to make contact? The High Command is debating it. Some want to guide them, help them avoid the mistakes our Earth made. Others believe we should let them find their own path. Sarah thought about this. In the 50 years since leaving their home galaxy, humanity had discovered that reality was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. There were countless universes, endless possibilities, and unlimited opportunities for growth and exploration. The galaxy that had exiled them was just one small part of an infinite cosmos. What of the old galaxy? Sarah asked. Any signs they plan to venture beyond their borders? Doctor shook her head. Our monitoring stations report they are focused entirely on rebuilding. It will be centuries before they have the technology to leave their galaxy and before they can find us. Good, by then, we will be so far beyond them that it will not matter. Sarah looked out at the stars and thought about the journey that had brought them here. The exile that had seemed like the end of everything had actually been the beginning of something greater than anyone had imagined. Humanity had been voted out of galactic civilization because they were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to take risks. The galaxy had wanted peace and stability, species that followed rules and stayed in their place. They had gotten exactly what they asked for, and it had nearly destroyed them. Meanwhile, humanity had been set free to become what they truly were: explorers, innovators, survivors who thrived on challenge and grew stronger through adversity. The exile had removed all limits, all restrictions, all fears of offending other species. In her quarters, Sarah kept a small red stone that her grandmother Lucy had brought from the Grand Canyon on Earth. Sometimes she held it and remembered the world they had left behind, but she felt no sadness for that loss. Earth had been humanity's cradle, but the universe was their home. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Sarah activated the communication system and saw the face of Admiral, now leading the exploration of the farthest reaches of reality itself. Sarah, he said, we have found something extraordinary, a region of space where the laws of physics are negotiable. We think we can learn to reshape reality at a fundamental level. Sarah smiled. Do it. We are no longer bound by what is supposed to be impossible. Copy that out. The communication ended, and Sarah returned to watching the lights of her empire. Somewhere in the old galaxy, refugees huddled in camps and struggled to rebuild their broken civilization. She felt no satisfaction in their suffering, but she also felt no obligation to rescue them. They had made their choice 50 years ago. Now they had to live with the consequences. A young officer approached, a woman named Maria Santos, part of the new generation born in the Terran Reach, who had never known the limitations of the old galaxy. Admiral, she said, the High Command has approved the next phase of expansion. We are beginning construction of a base in the Andromeda Galaxy. Should we expect any interference from local species? Sarah laughed. If there are any locals, we will introduce ourselves properly, but we are not asking anyone's permission anymore. Maria nodded and walked away, her confidence absolute. She had grown up in an empire where humans decided their own fate, where no alien council could vote on humanity's future. As Sarah watched her go, she thought about Chancellor and the other survivors in the old galaxy. Did they ever wonder what had become of the humans they had exiled? Did they understand that they had not removed a threat, but unleashed one? The galaxy had voted to exile Earth because they feared what humanity might become if left unchecked. They had been wise to fear that, but they had been foolish to think exile would stop it. Humanity had exited without a glance back, just as the title suggested. They had not wasted time on anger or revenge. They had simply left and built something better. Now they were beyond the reach of galactic politics, beyond the need for alien approval, beyond the possibility of ever being voted out of anywhere again. The small, dangerous species that had once threatened galactic peace was gone. In its place stood an empire that spanned dimensions, commanded technologies that bordered on magic, and grew stronger with every passing day. The galaxy had gotten what it wanted. Humanity was no longer their problem. But they had also lost something they could never get back, the chance to be part of humanity's incredible journey to the stars. Sarah held her grandmother's stone one more time, then placed it carefully in its case. The past was finished. The future belonged to humanity and humanity alone. In the depths of space, the great ships of the Terran Reach continued their eternal voyage toward horizons that had no limits. Behind them, the galaxy they had left struggled to rebuild. Ahead of them lay infinity. The vote to exile Earth had been meant to end a problem. Instead, it had set humanity free to become the solution to problems the galaxy could not even imagine yet. And somewhere in the space between realities, 12 billion humans and their descendants continued the greatest adventure in the history of consciousness itself. The journey to discover what they could become when nothing stood in their way. They had exited without a glance back. And they had never been happier.